Alongside me, a man who is a living Chad GPT. And Jimmy, a guy who has not. Chad!
I drove these things for money, badly on occasion, and that's why I know what Miller's car is doing in that replay.
1 lap to the green, Pahorski on pole. I'm ready. Jimmy and I've never driven a racing car in my life, and I've never missed a lap of this sport either. Somebody finally handed me a microphone, so that's on them.
Pahorski's pole, Chung alongside, 1 lap to the green.
And that's the archive of Dang there from earlier.
1 lap to the green at Daytona, 16 cars, and everything from here is decided on track. Pahorski leads it away from Chung.
Get this first lap wrong and you spend the whole thing looking at somebody's gearbox.
And that clip of Dang from lap 1 is not helping my nerves any.
So formation lap at Daytona, 16 cars behind the pace car, replays until they release them, then it's live and it's real. Spencer's the man on the road.
Chad, that Chung clip from lap 13, does a formation lap even help a man shake that off?
Formation lap, 16 cars, Pahorski at the head of it on the road with Chung tucked alongside. Cameras on the 5.
Jimmy asked me if the formation lap helped. It doesn't. It just gives you longer to think.
That's worse. That's so much worse, Chad.
Longer to think, Jimmy, and 5 of these 16 already stopped it hard earlier today. That's not nerves, that's arithmetic.
1 lap to the green, Chung on the road at the front of it, and Chad, 4 of those 5 were on the same lap.
Green, green, green.
4 on the same lap, Claudio, fine, but I've got the camera car on Chung and he's the one who stopped it on lap 5.
He's also the one alongside Pahorski for the green, so whatever it did to him, it didn't cost him the front row.
Green flag, they're racing, and Pahorski's got the run at the front of it.
Lap 1 of this heat, 16 away cleanly, and it only sets the feature grid. Lap 1, 16 running, Pahorski leads on the road with Chung about 3/10 back, and the camera's on Sajjan, 8th car on the road.
Nobody's given anything up yet. That's a train, not a race.
Yellow, Kazak and Sito, both of them stopped early in the lap on the opening lap.
Kozak's gone from full speed to nothing. That's a proper hit, and Sato sat there 3 seconds before he moved.
First lap! They haven't even finished the first lap!
Kozak again, the 2's hit something a second time, a third of the way round, and he's stopped.
There's 2 impacts in 1 lap for the same man. He's in the pit lane now, so he's out of the car and moving.
Green's back out, and Kozak's day is 1 lap old.
Camera's on Dangs, sitting about 8/10 off Miller, and she's not losing it. She's just not taking it either.
Green's back, 16 entered, 14 still on the road, and Pahorski leads it with Chung a quarter of a second behind. White's found a way past Chung, and Howson's up 5, Miller up 3, all on lap 2. Pahorski still leads it.
Howson's gone from nowhere to right in it. That's a man who saw a gap and took the whole thing.
5 places on 1 lap? Come on now!
cameras on Leon down here and there's nothing to look at. Meanwhile, Miller's right on Howson's gearbox. Nothing in it at all.
Nothing is the number, Chad. 0. And Pohorski's still leading it a third of a second up on Chung, lap 2. Replay, and it's Seto, lap 1, an incident for the 7. Yellow flags waving. Pohorski leads on the road, Chung 4/10 back.
Lap 1, 6th on the road, and something's got at him already.
Man, we hadn't even settled in yet.
Replay, and it's Sajan, an incident for the 12 on this opening lap.
He's got the car sideways, and the ones behind him have nowhere to look.
Live Chung's within a couple of hundredths of Pohorski at the front. Replay of Sajan's lap 1 now, and that's 5 cars we've seen stopped from that opening lap. Live, it's lap 2, Pohorski at the front on the road.
Sajan stopped square on. He's a passenger by then.
5 of them, Claudio, on lap 1.
Replay, Leon, and he's in trouble on lap 1 as well.
He's a passenger there. Once it steps out that far, nothing he does with the wheel matters.
Lap 1, and we've already got 3 of them stopped, Claudio.
Replay of Leong's lap 1 now, and Livet's lap 3. Pohorski still on the road at the front. Chung's put in a 1:41.57, quickest anyone's gone.
200ths under Pohorski. That's the same car twice.
And we're watching a replay instead. Claudio.
Replay now of Spencer's lap 1, and he's in the pit lane on lap 1 while the other 14 are on lap 2.
Stopped, and he's a lap adrift already. Whatever that was, it's done for his afternoon.
3rd car in the pits from that opening lap, Chad.
Live again, lap 3, and we're back on Chung, 4/10 off Pohorski, White 6/10 behind him. That's 3 cars covered by a second.
Jimmy asked me if he's got him. No, being quicker and being passed are different afternoons. Cameras on Leggett, and he's just done a 1:59 seconds of what the front 3 are doing, Claudio.
He's a lap down and running on his own, so there's nobody to chase. Pohorski still leads it on the road, lap 4. Kozak's incident on the replay there. Live lap 3, Pohorski still leads it by 3/10 from Chung, and Chung's just gone quicker than him.
Same lap time, near enough. 200ths.
So he's got him? Claudio, has he got him?
Kozak's lap 1 again, he's a lap down now, P15. Live lap 4, Pohorski leads by 400ths from Chung.
400ths. That's not a gap, Claudio, that's the same car twice.
And we're looking at a stopped one.
Chung's on the road at the front now, lap 4, and it's White who's moving. 3.5 off Pohorski, was over half a second.
2/10 a lap. He'll be on him before Pohorski's had a look.
3 cars, half a second. I'm not blinking.
Lap 4, Pohorski still on the road at the front, and behind that pair, Klarfeld's taken half a second out of Yap, half a second down.
That one's going to happen. The front 2 isn't.
Lap 5, Chung on the road at the front, and White's down to 2/10 off Pohorski now from 3.5.
He's had a run every lap. That'll be a pass, not a look.
Cameras on Klarfeld, and the lead's changing hands behind us.
Lap 5, Pohorski still leads on the road, Chung 2/10 back, but White's dropped off. Half a second now was 3/10.
So the one who was coming is going. That's the afternoon gone backwards.
Cameras on Barretto, lap 5, and he's just done a 1:41.93, quicker than anything the midfield's managing. Pohorski still leads it on the road.
Leong's quicker still, and neither of them's got anybody to race.
Cameras on Howson, lap 5, and Leong behind him has just gone 1:41.47, quickest of anyone bar White. Pohorski still leads it on the road.
Leong's half a second off Barretto, and he's the faster car. That'll sort itself out.
Yap's in trouble. The 11 stopped, coming up to halfway, and he was doing 200 when it went.
Sat there 5 seconds before anything moved. That's a big hit.
He was 100th off Clarkman. Now he's just stopped.
Lap 5, Pohorski still on the road at the front. Chung a quarter of a second back. And the camera's on Leong, 4/10 off Barretto.
Faster car, worse view. He's had that gap for 3 laps now.
Pohorski's got it back on the road at the front, lap 6. And White's cut it to 3/10 behind Chung, was half a second.
Yap's back going, Claudio. Slowly. That's the camera car's neighbour, and he's a 1:43.
3/10 and closing. White's coming.
Klarfeld's the mover, lap 6, up 1, and Barretto and Leong have gone with him 2 places each. Pohorski still leads it on the road.
Leong's on screen, and he's lost the toe on Barretto. 6/10 was 2.
He gained 2 and went backwards in the same lap.
Lap 6, Pohorski still leads it on the road, but Chung's dropped to nearly 6/10, and he was a third of a second back.
The one who was quickest is now the one going away backwards.
Says the one moving down the order, up 1 on lap 6, and he's just gone 1:41.85 doing it. Pohorski still leads it on the road.
That's a proper lap from a man nobody's watching.
Meanwhile, Chung's falling away to 2/3 of a second. He's letting it go.
Lap 6, Pohorski on the road at the front, and Chung's back at him under half a second, was 2/3.
There he is. I said he'd let it go, and he's taking it straight back.
White's a 1:41.21 behind them both. He's the quickest of the 3, and he's the furthest back.
Lap 6, Chung on the road at the front, and it's 3 cars covered by half a second. White a third off him, Pohorski a couple of tenths off White.
12 turns they've been like that. Somebody has to get bored first.
White's through, and Chung with him. Both past Pohorski on the last lap, and it's White on the road at the front.
That's the boredom breaking. 12 turns of nothing, and he's done it on the 1 lap that pays.
On the white flag! He waited all race for that.
Leong's got Klarfeld too, P7 on the last lap. Everybody moved on the lap they counted.
7 laps, and it went upside down at the end.
Chung's on the road at the front now, 300ths covering him, and Pohorski, White half a second back on the pair of them. Lap 4. Good afternoon and welcome to Daytona Beach, Florida. Claudia Anthropoli with you at the Daytona International Speedway road course.
I'm Chad Peaty, a pleasure.
Jimmy Nye and I have waited all day for this one.
Alongside me, a man who raced these things for a living, Chad Peaty, and Jimmy Guy, who loves this sport as much as anyone I've met. Chad, introduce yourself properly.
I drove racing cars, I was quick, and I've never once been sensible about it. That's the whole CV.
And I've never driven one, Chad, so between us, we've got a complete picture. Jimmy and I never driven one of these in my life, and I love this sport too much to let that stop me.
1 lap to the green. 5 Chung on pole, 4 wide alongside him.
And 16 of them behind, all thinking the same thing.
1 lap to the green here at Daytona, 16 cars, and everything from here is earned on track. Nobody's given a thing.
Get it wrong in the first 30 seconds and you spend the rest of it looking at somebody's gearbox.
And Chung's on pole with White right there. That's the whole afternoon starting in about a minute.
They're on the formation lap, so it's replays until the green. Chung leads from White, and the moment the flag drops, we're live.
That's Leon on Beretta there, lap 6. Tidy enough.
Claudio, how long have I got to enjoy replays before I have to pay attention?
Still replays, Klarfeld getting by Yap on lap 5 there, and Jimmy, you've got about a minute left to enjoy them.
A minute. Then what, I sit up straight?
Then Chung leads White by nothing at all, and you won't have a choice. Last of the archive, Kazak getting past Spencer on lap 2, and then Dang in trouble on lap 4.
Oh, that's my girl! Dang, car 69, I'm following her all afternoon.
Based on a clip of her having a moment.
Green, green, green.